Alright, Aiden Maxwell here again, and to start off the second episode of this series, I would like to explain a little bit about the difference between climate and weather. Now, these are two very similar things that many people often get confused, but understanding the difference is important to understanding what climate change actually affects. So, as I stated in the previous episode, this episode is going to focus mostly on what climate change is and the specific processes that cause it. So the main difference between climate and weather is the time frame that these events occur on. Weather is more of a day-to-day and even monthly or weekly basis, while climate is large-scale changes to patterns over time involving weather and some other factors. And some misconceptions people have about these two different things can lead to a lot of misinformation. You hear about climate change of people saying things like, oh, the climate isn't getting warmer because there was an unseasonably cold day during the warmer seasons, or something like that, when it's important to understand that just because a specific weather event happened, that isn't evidence of climate changing. You need to look at a much bigger time scale to see if there's really an impact on the overall climate. And that's not to say that climate change doesn't affect weather patterns, because it does. There may be events that become more extreme or happen more often because of climate, but just one singular event is never necessarily evidence of climate change occurring. Now, to get into more of some of the nitty-gritty details of how climate change actually occurs, it's important to understand what greenhouse gases are. Greenhouse gases are gases that are trapped within our atmosphere that help contain the heat from solar radiation provided by the sun. Instead of the normal amount of heat escaping into space, these greenhouse gases trap more than is usual, and this raises the overall temperature of the entire planet. While there are many other intricate effects that occur when our climate is changed in this way, such as even events as unseasonal cooling or things like that can happen as a result of these changes, the main thing people use to track climate change is the rising temperature, since that is one of the most consistent things that happens and one of the most noticeable changes. There are many greenhouse gases, but two of the most common that are talked about and looked at are carbon dioxide and methane. While there are many different sources of these greenhouse gases being emitted, the two biggest that provide the largest percentage of these gases is the burning of fossil fuels and agriculture. Fossil fuels are burned to produce most of the energy used in our society today, and as these sources are burned, they give off many of these harmful gases that end up clouding our atmosphere and trapping more heat. Agriculture is one of the most widely practiced things across the globe, and it contributes in a few different ways. One of the main ways is that animals that are farmed produce methane and release that into the atmosphere, raising the temperature even higher. Another way that agriculture increases this global warming process is through the release of carbon dioxide by clearing things like forests to make more land for growing crops or raising livestock. So there are many other processes that also contribute to emissions of greenhouse gases around the globe, but those are just two main ones, and I'm sure you'll be able to find many more examples of greenhouse gas emissions in your daily life and pretty much everywhere. Now, one last thing I want to cover about the actual process of climate change is just kind of how large scale and how big of a time frame that these changes are occurring on. There are many natural climate processes that occur, and they can be changed quite drastically by the temperature rising so much. These natural processes occur over a very large time scale, and if they are changed, we don't even know if we will be able to revert them to the original forms. These changes could end up being catastrophic for the globe overall, so it's important for us to really question if we should continue to do things the way we are and see what happens, or take a more preventative stance and try to fix things before they get out of our control. So that's gonna about wrap it up for this video. I hope that it helped give you a better understanding of some of the processes behind climate change. I know this isn't a super in-depth description of all the processes or very technical, but I hope it helped you gain a better understanding of what's actually happening and what's actually causing these changes that people are talking about. Again, thanks for watching. I hope you guys are all staying tuned. There will be 2 more episodes coming out. So keep watching them, and please, please, please give me any feedback. I want to hear everyone's opinions on these topics. So yeah, let me know what you think.